Welcome back to Happiness Habitat. I'm so excited to have Carolyn Yachanin from Copina Co on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here, Jacqlyn.
Yeah, so, I have in front of me your beautiful product, which is your Matcha Beauty plant-based collagen tea here. And I would love to just learn at first, talk to me a little bit about what you're doing, what you've created, because I'm addicted over here.
My
As
gosh.
you can see, I'm drinking it and I've been drinking it every day.
Makes me so happy. Well, first of all, I think we met in Erewhon. I was doing a demo in Erewhon in Venice, and I met you and your boyfriend, and you guys were the best. But I think I showed you, I think we started talking because I showed you this crazy text that I got from a customer who was awesome and I met before, and she texted like in full caps, "This matcha is effing amazing," to her friend. And that was like the best energy. And then I met you and I was like, man, the energy for it, like, I don't know if it's the matcha or what, but the energy this morning was like, that morning was amazing. Yeah. But no, so sorry, you want me to talk about how I started the company,
Talk
everything?
to me about the product. Yeah,
all right, I can do that. So
how you started it. Like, let's learn about the journey here.
Let's do it. I love it. So yeah, so I'm Carolyn. I founded my company Copina Co. It's interesting because it's a wellness company, but kind of, a place of unwellness inspired me to found it. So started it during the pandemic, but kind of years of inspiration and, my own journey went into that. I always had acne, had the pleasure of having acne at a really young age, and then had gut health issues for a really long time. And I did really commonly prescribed medications, but quite strong medications for it. So I was prescribed like oral antibiotics for several years as a teenager, in middle school. I went on Accutane twice, like all these things. And yeah, I mean, all these things that when I hope it's different now. Certainly at the time, the emphasis was always just on clearing your skin. And, certainly, I mean, man, when I was 14 years old doing that stuff, I didn't really understand the long-term repercussions of some of these things, but also didn't realize that our body is not a makeup of different Lego parts, everything's connected, and that your skin is a reflection of your internal health. And so all these really harsh treatments, man, they left my gut health in shambles. Certainly, it was like a whack-a-mole game with my acne because it wasn't solving the underlying issues. So it kept coming back. And then also it really hurt my skin. So I had really terrible, terrible dry skin. And just felt terrible. After all these things, I was living in Philly, for college, and then on the East Coast a little bit after. And I just have these visceral memories of walking in the winter and like my lips cracking and it being so terrible. Cause I already had all this dry skin, and, so I was just so tired of being on this endless train of not feeling good. When you realize that you deserve to feel a different way. And it was like, I don't know what it was, but I was just like, you know what? Because I was being told that what I was feeling was normal. The medications I was on were normal. And I'm like, this is some BS. I mean, I don't want to live this way. I felt internally like I developed a new respect for myself and my body. And I realized that I deserved better quality of life. So instead of going on this train of medications, all this, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try out holistic medicine. And this is 2016. I mean, I had no idea what this was. Lots of Googling. And I started.
So this is your intro into holistic medicine.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I started with this whole journey of holistic medicine, and, which is basically the idea of it. And I was searching like functional medicine tests that I'd heard on podcasts, like naturopathic doctors. And I had to go to that because I remember going to my normal doctor and trying to get a prescription for a functional medicine test, which I half knew what it was. Like I was hoping they kind of knew what it was after. And they were like, we have no idea. But came to find out it's a gut health test, like basically, a stool test. And I remember being told, no, we can't prescribe that to you because gastro is separate from derm. And that blew my mind because like, wait, I've read books on Ayurveda. I've done my own research. And I mean, and also clearly my body's out of whack and clearly these things are connected. And you're telling me that my gut health has no effect on my skin. What? Crazy.
What?
Yeah. So,
That's crazy.
yeah. So holistic medicine looks at your body in a holistic way. We'll look at it's really about root cause medicine. And really this whole idea that your vibrance, your beauty is about how healthy you are inside. And so I healed my dry skin. I healed my gut with plants and herbs, like amazing things, changing my lifestyle. But I really healed with a lot of these plant botanicals, and collagen was something that people had been suggesting I have for my dry skin and just a lot of my gut health. And I have always really been interested in being plant positive, whether you're fully plant-based or not. And I really, when I looked at it, I said, gosh, I really don't like what's in this stuff. I really don't like that it's permanently sourced from basically cow hides, fish skins, eggshells, don't really know where this meat is coming from. Was really interested in plant-based alternative. And I just had this healing experience. So I thought, this is interesting. A lot of people are going what I'm going through. A lot of people interested in collagen and really waking up to its amazing benefits, but I don't see any easy to use, fun, delicious, and effective plant-based options. So I decided that I was going to start a business. And my husband was in the military at the time. He recently got out and he was deploying. And I was like, you know what? Husband's going to be gone for... I'm like in my 20s, husband's going to be gone for 2 8-month stretches in the next 2 years. Like I don't have kids. Let's do it. Let's start, why not? And I started kind of doing my own research and then reaching out to herbalists to help me formulate a product. And it just kind of went from there.
Wow. Incredible. Can you talk to me a little bit about plant-based collagen? And I'm plant-based.
Love that.
I eat fish every once in a while, but I've been plant-based since 2016. So when I went into Erewhon, which is for all the listeners listening here, it's like the best grocery store you could possibly go to in LA. It's like creme de la creme. Anyway, so I'm in there and I find your product and I'm like, plant-based collagen support. And fireworks exploded for me because I'm like, I have the biggest struggle finding plant-based collagen. Mm-hmm. Can you talk to me a little bit about collagen and then kind of like the plant-based side of it?
Totally. So first of all, there is no such thing as vegan collagen. And I think it's really important to say because I'm all about like labeling things correctly. So because collagen is an essential protein, think of it like, I'd think of it like whey protein powders versus the other protein powders we have, right? So collagen's this essential protein that our bodies make. And we tend to make less of it over time due to the natural aging process. But also, we live in a very stressful modern world, be it, physical stresses, environmental stresses, our own mental stress too. But it's a lot for our bodies to process. We're staring at blue light all day, not getting as much sleep as we maybe should have. And I mean, we aren't evolved for this stuff. And so our bodies are under a lot of stress. But, and stress does certainly lead to premature aging. It can hurt your gut health, but also just all these things. But we also live in an age of unbelievable information and unbelievable access to products. So, our modern world certainly does contribute to collagen loss and the natural aging process. Collagen is important though, because it's kind of like that connective tissue in your skin. It's in that, like, I'm pinching my cheeks here, the bounciness in your cheeks. It's in that fatty tissue. And it really helps with certainly hair health, skin health, nail health, and it helps with that plumpness. People often report too joint health and gut health. But typical collagen products supplement your collagen by giving you a finished protein from an animal. So like ground up cow hides kind of thing. And the idea there is that you ingest that protein, goes into your bloodstream, and you net increase your collagen that way. That's one way to go about it. We go about it a different way. Okay. Kind of looking at the question of, well, why is your body not making as much collagen as it could? And so what plant-based collagen supports do is they use plant botanicals. And it's really important, by the way, to make sure that plant botanicals you're having are completely bioavailable, which we can talk more about. And also actually work. So we use a whole collection of different plant botanicals that are sourced and dosed by herbalists. And what they do is they have vitamins and amino acids that work to help your body make more of its own collagen and have all these other amazing benefits because they're really awesome and potent plant botanicals with roots in Ayurveda, Eastern medicine, and herbalism.
Amazing. It sounds to me like even if you're not plant-based, the way to go would be just taking something that supports your own personal collagen, like, generation of how that's actually working in your body versus the other route. But obviously it's up to personal
Exactly.
preference. But I would love for you to get more into, if you could, the gut, because it sounds like you do know a lot about that, and just how does the gut interfere with kind of everything else? Because people like to say it's kind of like the second brain.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that, we all live in symbiosis with one another. Every little thing in our body is within symbiosis, just as you mentioned, your skin with your gut and your skin and everything else. So talk to me a little bit just about the gut and how that kind of affects everything else.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting. So first of all, there's so much that we don't know about the gut. Like one of my best friends is, she got her PhD in biology and master's at the same time in stats at Stanford. She's doing like computer science too. And even she did something basically, with human DNA, but, she was like, you know what? She was working on something with gut health. And she's like, it's crazy how much we don't know. People do not realize how much we do not know because every person is different. Your microbiome within your system is going to be completely different than someone else's. So basically, we don't know so much about the gut, but things that we do know, and I can speak from my own experience, and first of all, I'm not a doctor. Highly recommend you speak to a doctor about some of these things. Right. But basically, your gut has, it's kind of like a little forest in there, right? Lots of different things growing. And you want to make sure that there's a nice balance going on. When you have an imbalance, it can be candida, it can be some kind of dysbiosis, something like that. It can be caused by different things. So, certainly having antibiotics in your system, or eating animal products that are produced with antibiotics. The mouthwash we use, my gosh, eating too much sugar in our diets too. Sugar is huge. Sugar is in so many things. Like, for example, one of the reasons I made with Copina Co all of our products sugar-free is because people don't realize how much sugar is in most things we have. Like, for example, a certain coffee chain has a matcha latte on the menu, has 23 grams of sugar to start per cup, like for a 16-ounce cup, which is nuts. And that's about as much sugar as you're supposed to have in a day. Yeah. And
that's crazy.
And
is, by the way, your product is one of the reasons, like, I love this so much because there was no sugar added at all. And like, I am very health conscious focused, where I usually cook, most of the time, actually, like 85% of the time, I'm making my own food, and I never buy anything that's, a package, or like, I'm always trying to buy the best things I can, because your body is seriously your temple, and how you operate is also stemmed from how you feel it.
Absolutely.
And so the gut health, it's like, how you're feeding your body is going to introduce whatever kind of different things are living inside of the gut and working with your body and creating the other gut bugs,
And it's a feedback loop too, because it's the things we're putting in, like you're mentioning, the quality of ingredient, sugar, but also your mental state too. So stress, like, for example, people have used things like depression meds to treat gut health. Like, there's this huge link between our gut, and which is nuts, like our gut and our mood, but also, given that if you're in an elevated level of stress, that's really messing with your body chemistry, and that's also going to affect your gut health, and vice versa. So if you're having gut issues, that can certainly affect your stress levels. So really looking at everything holistically. So that's why, for example, one of the products has ashwagandha in it, ashwagandha extract, which is really awesome for helping to reduce stress. All of them are low in sugar. So all these things basically, I know I'm throwing out all these terms. My gosh, I mean, we're talking about collagen, we're talking about gut, but everything's linked in our bodies. And so it's really important to look at yourself as this wonderful, beautiful thing. And, if you're not feeling great, your body's trying to tell you it wants to be healthier. And, we've really got to listen.
That's so important. And just what you just said, we have to listen. So many people ignore the symptoms in their body and try to cover it up with something such as, they wake up extremely tired and immediately just put caffeine in their body.
Yeah.
And really, we actually get a lot of energy from sitting in front of the sun for at least 10 minutes. Like there's so many natural ways to fuel our body. Like we're just a living being on this planet that's another microbiome within the, whole entire world, basically.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can you optimize to best live in this world as a creature that, lives in symbiosis with everything else?
Definitely.
And so I kind of want to switch gears here because, you founded this incredible company. You created this company because you saw a problem and you wanted to solve it. Talk to me about building the company and what that was like and getting it into stores, because that's not easy.
No.
I don't think that's easy.
Yeah. So it was so interesting too. So I started this company. I was working on it in 2019 and I launched it in February 2020. And my whole strategy was, and my gosh, I did a soft launch with packaging that was stickered on. I packed it at a local facility. I worked with a college student to do my packaging designs. I shot the initial photography on my apartment floor. I did not raise money to do my launch. I think a lot of people think they have to raise money. You do not. I think it's really important to get product market fit. But I decided to launch this in this way. And my whole idea was I wanted to really work with small businesses, use a wholesale network of key small businesses in like LA, San Francisco, New York. That's it. And be in the right places, in the right hands, and use that to really support organic brand awareness that would feed into social, all these things. So really relying on in-person retail. You probably know where this is going.
Yes.
And then the pandemic hits. And, my gosh, beyond, how it affected so many people, which, there's been so much said about that. For my own business, I had to shift gears because that was my business plan wasn't going to work. So I had to shift to being entirely D2C, so direct to consumer for the first 4 months of my business. And then I still remember, I think it really helps to realize, especially when you're growing a company, that you have to be your own best advocate and you have to sell yourself. And I have always loved sales. I've always loved marketing, but I really got into a mode of being absolutely shameless, reaching out to people. So I think I found the personal Instagrams, not even joking, not like actual personal Instagrams, because I stalked them on LinkedIn first, of the Urban Outfitters buyers. And I DM'd them. And I remember driving up to Tahoe from San Diego, because we didn't want to fly in like April or something like that in the pandemic. And
Right.
I got a reply from them, like, email me this, we're interested. And so Copina Co got into Urban Outfitters as our first account. And then a few months later, Erewhon. And that happened because I kept calling the stores until they finally gave me the buyer's email. And then I kept emailing the buyer until he finally, I think Hafta told me to shut up, was like, brought them in. So we got into Erewhon like a few months later. And that was the first actual like retail account. And then, I know just from talking to people in my own experience, because I have a background in sales and marketing, like what's so important in retail, I think you don't have to be anywhere everywhere at once, right? If you're in one place, you need to be the best performing like if you're a peanut butter, you need to be the best peanut butter at Erewhon Venice kind of thing. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do really, really well at Erewhon. I'm going to do really well at Urban Outfitters. And then I'll tell that story to more people. And it kind of grew from there. But I just got into Whole Foods. Copina Co just got into Whole Foods thank you, in Northern California, New York City, and Boston and New Jersey. So Northeast, North Atlantic, NorCal. Super excited, really big deal. And we launched on Amazon. But, doing Whole Foods was a 2-year process. So that also started from me reaching out to buyers right after I launched and not hearing back, guessing people's emails, doing all this, navigating staff changes and, being told no, but then going back. And it was this full circle moment where it was just so many ups and downs, but really just knowing the hero product, not being unmotivated, undeterred, and just keep going with it. And I think too, one thing that was really helpful was doing my own demos, which is how we met. So I got to get great feedback. And I wish we could have done it earlier on, but they wouldn't let people demo in stores for a really long time during the pandemic. But it was so great to ask people how it tasted or get your messaging down. Like, for example, when I did my first demos in Erewhon, I realized that my messaging was way too complicated. Because people are walking by, and let me tell you, I'm very nice to people demoing in grocery stores now because I have done it, and it can be so tough. But I realized too, the kind of messaging that sticks, because, when you're near the beverage area at lunch and it's crowded, you got to realize what kind of messaging is going to make people stick. And most founders of companies don't do their own demos, but I think it's incredibly valuable. And it really impacted kind of how we've grown too.
Wow. Was there ever a moment when you were starting this company when you were like, maybe someone else will create it, or was there ever a moment when you thought to yourself, this isn't something that I should be going down? Or was your mindset always this is a product that I need to create because it's a need? I want to help so many people.
Well, I first of all want to back up because I think I'm really passionate about entrepreneurship. In college, my parents had a small business when I was growing up. They had a spice company. There were baby pictures of me crawling all over the spice racks, helping out. When I was in college,
That's so cute.
it's pretty, nothing has changed. When I was in college too, I went to, Wharton at UPenn, which is business school, undergrad business school. And, in a summer, I did this really awesome thing where there's a local small business development center, and they would let students work as consultants for local small businesses. So got to help, everything from a robot to help demine former war zones to a doggy nail salon in Philadelphia, got to help be part of the process of helping them apply for loans, do business plans, all these things. I think we also live in a time when entrepreneurship is fetishized, yet there is a record low number of people starting new businesses. I think there's been a slight turnaround in that during the pandemic. But if you look at 40, 50-year figures, it's very different. Mm-hmm. And I think part of that too, I think, certainly you could have a whole conversation about all these things, but I think a big part of it is so many people have great ideas. They're great ideas thought all the time. But to have the confidence, which I kind of didn't have the confidence. I almost had to fake it. To have the confidence to be I'm just going to do this. This is going to be me. I am not naturally that confident. I remember when I was starting my business, and even now, I'll be biking around or walking around my neighborhood. I love walks, but especially when I was starting, I was so uncomfortable, and I would just say, the F word, under my breath, almost to myself, because I just felt oh my gosh, this is, call it whatever, whatever you want. But I was really uncomfortable, but I think being uncomfortable is such a gift, and realizing that you don't have to be perfect at everything. Like there's this great newsletter that I love. Oh my gosh, the Not Boring newsletter, but they have a weekly dose of positivity thing. They were talking about education though, and educating our kids. And they were saying, our education system is great at raising you to be really high performing sheep. And it's kind of true. Like, we think of,
Yeah.
I mean, just like so many kids think they're not good at math or think they aren't going to amount to anything because maybe school wasn't their thing. Like school was my thing, but certain subjects I told myself a long time were not. Or, some of my family members didn't love school as much, but man, they are awesome at business. They're awesome at videography. They're awesome at this new thing they're doing. And I think an emphasis on performance for kids so young is detrimental to an independent spirit and to that confidence later. Like I am blown away by the young ages of kids thinking about college, thinking about high school, putting that pressure on themselves all the time. And so I think that it's so helpful to have the freedom, that grace to give yourself the freedom to explore is just so incredibly important, and confidence is like a muscle.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's funny. Someone I follow, they have two young girls, I think 12 and 11, or 12 and 9. And the parents are speakers, motivational speakers. And they actually have the kids come up on stage in front of these large crowds to speak as well. And I'm like, you're building some superstars.
That's amazing.
Like, wow. But it's so obvious to me, like what's allowed you, at least in my interpretation and what I've observed so far, is just, passion and persistence is what I really do see in you. And it's such an admirable thing because, you never know if that next no or that no you have, the next one's going to be yes. You never know. And so I'd love to talk about too, just what your day to day is like, like how do you stay focused and healthy and what does that look like?
Yeah. I definitely work a lot. But I find that if I have, even if I can't do a full day off a week, which I normally try to do, I try to take at least one day off, but I tend to work later and maybe longer hours, but I take care of myself because I realize if I push myself too much physically, I'm not going to be there to perform mentally. I'm not going to be there emotionally. I'm not going to be able to think strategically like I need to do. So I've gotten into, my sister called me a hippie in the best way the other day. I will tell you exactly what I love doing now. Okay. Gotten really into, so I always wake up, I wake up a little earlier than my husband. I like to make my matcha in the morning. I like to journal. I read a great book, The Artist's Way, which is basically about how anyone can be creative and reconnecting to that. And I like kind of free journaling in the mornings. And I don't do this every day. And I try to. Sometimes things get busy, but I say a prayer or say some kind of meditation. I'm a religious person, so I say some kind of prayer in the morning, express gratitude, intentions, everything like that. Sometimes when I'm journaling, I'll write notes to my future self, which is a really fun thing. Like if I'm going through something, I heard that on a podcast and I thought it was the coolest thing. Like if you're feeling like you're in the thick of it, or maybe kind of things feel a little shaky, it's, writing a note to yourself 6 months from now or a year from now and being super specific on what you envision just kind of reminds you, oh, wait, anything is possible. Shoot. We always go on a walk with our dogs. So some kind of movement in the morning. We get that sunshine within the first hour of waking.
Yeah.
Some days I'll skip the meditation and instead do like I've gotten into dry brushing and then a cold shower. Like really, really awesome. This morning I ran with my dog on the beach. I'm fortunate to live less than 10-minute drive to the beach. So it was pretty cold, but just felt so good.
Hey, that's the point of living. That's the
I
point of
know,
living in
right?
California.
Yeah. Yeah.
We get to
I
enjoy
know.
the
I grew
water.
up in San Francisco and everyone always and my high school was near the beach, but no one ever went because it's
Yeah,
not, San Francisco is not an episode of the OC. Like, not at all. But now I
yeah,
guess I'm living
yeah.
that. And then I love making, yeah, I love making smoothies in the morning. And then, I love cooking. So I love like normally I'll do workouts kind of in the evening. So like 5 to 8 won't really be doing stuff and I'll like, or 6 to 8, like cook, move, like I'll do some kind of workout. I'll cook. Sometimes I'll like to walk, but I try to leave my phone away. Gets tough sometimes, but I feel like I really value quiet and that mental space of not being on. Because there's this weird pressure, like, oh, I have 5 free minutes. I could be learning Chinese or I could be learning a new skill or something like that. But man, like Albert Einstein said that he thought of some of his best ideas when he was just floating in the middle of a lake and he would be able to think through things. Like I think that boredom and quiet, unfortunately, has to be scheduled for me. But I really try to have that at least an hour a week. Like I read that George Shultz, the former Secretary of State who just passed away, he would schedule once a week. He could only do it once a week, but an hour of just free creative time where he would think of bold ideas and write them down. I thought, that's so cool. Like, you know,
You know what I do? I don't do it enough, but every single time I schedule a massage, I know that great ideas are gonna come out,
hmm,
or just ideas. Like every time I get a massage, my brain immediately goes to
I love
creation.
that.
And yes, I'm also helping my body, removing all the toxins, getting everything flowing. But I just had one yesterday, and I thought of like three ideas. Casey's like, you should execute on one of those. I'm like, I'll put them in my
I
ideas
love
app. I'll put
that.
in my ideas, notes.
No, but it can,
And I want to back up too. Or
no,
I'm
no, no.
sorry,
I
go
was about
on.
to say, I just think that's amazing. And your brain knows too, like, okay, this is going to be my time.
It's conditioned. I've conditioned myself, I think. I want to go back to you. So do you write yourself your future self notes? Now, what if we went the other way around? What's the biggest lesson that you would share to your younger self?
Oh man. I would say that the biggest lesson I would share is the freedom to have the freedom to fail. Failure is your friend. Because I was really, man, when I was in college, I was really caught up on my GPA. Um, when I was younger, I was really caught up on um, doing things right or checking a box. Really loved gold stars. Super shiny gold stars were my jam. And freeing myself from that, like giving myself the permission to fail. And I was so afraid of that. I don't know why I was so afraid. Like I had this drive in me, I think from seeing my parents, who really are my heroes, have their business. Like I had this drive to create my own business, but I also at the same time had been conditioned, you know, to really, really be afraid. Like I almost felt like I would break or something, like, man, the whole world would be crashing down. I remember in sports though, I something that changed my life. I did rowing in college and high school. Is how I got into college. But we won bronze at nationals my sophomore year in high school, and we had an awesome coach. She was a former, 3-time gold medal NCAA champion coxswain, who's like a coach if you aren't familiar with rowing. But I remember,
Yeah.
you're so uncomfortable when you're rowing and doing these things. But she would just kind of say, what's the worst that can happen? Like what would happen if you tried this new speed or this thing that's uncomfortable? Like, what do you think is going to happen? Because often what we think is going to be a worst case scenario, when we actually talk it out or say it out loud, it's bananas and it's not going to happen. Or even if it does, you can figure it out. Um, yeah, but
Right.
I don't know. Honestly, I know some people start businesses when they're 18. I was not that person. I mean, I started my company when how old was I? I was 28, 29, 28 at the time. Um, and, it took me a while, but and man, I get so excited too about the future. like doing this, I'm so grateful I discovered this now because, I hear stories like Colonel Sanders from Kentucky Fried Chicken. He started his company when he was 65. I love Rich Roll. He's an amazing podcaster, but he has this one quote, like, he only started bike, and he's an ultra marathoner, only started biking when he was, 40, started his podcast when he was 45. And I'm like, yeah, like, hell yeah. I get so pumped thinking about future things that I can't even conceptualize right now.
So awesome. And I want to ask too, the show, it's called Happiness Habitat. How do you define happiness?
Okay. I define it by action and faith. I would say that when your actions are aligned with something you believe in, when you can find something beautiful in every day, that's a pretty cool thing. But I also really think happiness is a choice. Certainly chemically, some people have something going on, and I certainly empathize with that. But I do think that there is always something beautiful in every single day. And sometimes it's just our job to find it. And you can view the same thing can be happening, but if you're viewing it from different lenses, you're going to see it completely differently. So I think happiness is another muscle that can be worked at too.
Beautiful. So well said. That's so beautiful. It's called, I like to call that the gratitude lens.
Definitely.
The gratitude lens. Well, Carolyn, thank you so much for joining Happiness Habitat Show. This has been such a pleasure having you. Where can everyone
you're so kind. You can follow me at Carolyn Yachanin on Instagram. My company is at Copina Co, and we're sold on copinaco.com. Our website, Amazon, Whole Foods, Erewhon, Jimbo's, Mother's Markets, all the fun places. And in Jacqlyn's pantry, go over there for a matcha. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, and no, I'm really grateful. I love what you're doing. Really grateful to be on your show. This is a lot of fun.
This has been amazing. Well, everyone, please follow Carolyn if you already are not, and please make sure you try her amazing products because I love it and I feel great drinking them. So thank you again, and I'll see you next time.